প্রিয় দর্শক, আসসালামু আলাইকুম। কোর ভিশন ফাউন্ডেশনের উদ্যোক্তা উন্নয়ন কার্যক্রম ভিশন ফর সাকসেসে স্বাগতম। দর্শক, সফলতা আমাদের সবার কাম্য। প্রতিটি ক্ষেত্রে আমরা এর জন্য করছি প্রতিযোগিতা, কিন্তু সফলতার সংজ্ঞা, এর মাপকাঠি কি আমরা জানি? সম্পদ, নাম, ক্ষমতা পেলেই কি আমি সফল? কোরআন ও সুন্নাহর আলোকে এসব প্রশ্নের উত্তর খুঁজতেই কোর ভিশন ফাউন্ডেশনের উদ্যোক্তা উন্নয়ন কার্যক্রম ভিশন ফর সাকসেস। আমরা আলোচনা করছিলাম সূরা বাকারা। আজকের আলোচনা some lessons from Surah Baqarah about Ramadan, how Ramadan teaches us. Here with us, Imam Shamsiari, Director, Jamaica Muslim Center. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam wa barakatuh.
How are you?
Alhamdulillah.
So we are discussing about Surah Baqarah, a few ayats. So we want to continue.
Yes, so I think today, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, Alhamdulillah, Salatu Wassalam ala Rasulillah. I would like to talk about Surah Al-Baqarah 183. And Surah Al-Baqarah 183 is primarily talking about the obligation of fasting of Ramadan. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu, kutiba alaykumus siyam, kama kutiba ala alladhina min qablikum, la'allakum tattaqun. In this ayah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala want to tell us that, all believers, or you who believe, fasting is prescribed upon you as it was prescribed upon those who before you, so that you may gain self-restraint. Now, لَعَلَّكُمْ تَتَّقُونَ has a lot of translation, but in essence means so that you can have the fear of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So you can fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now, there are three main points that I would like to underline from this ayah. Number one, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu. Number two, kutiba alaykumus siyam. And then number three, la'allakum tattaqun. So the first one is I'm going to talk about why fasting is related to Iman. And I think the answer to that is because fasting is a very personal in nature. Means when you do fasting, no third person involved. Nobody knows that you're fasting. You may pretend to do fast, you may pretend to be hungry or thirsty, but in truth, that you're not fasting. You can go beyond the wall and drink or eat food, and nobody knows. But when you're doing fasting, that is an absolute personal practice between us and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I'm doing fasting personally, privately to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that is the reason why fasting is considered by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala himself as a worship that belongs directly to him. It's not owned by servants. We don't own it, but fasting is owned by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So he says in Hadith al-Qudsi, Hadith Qudsi means a hadith which is being narrated by Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but it is expressed by Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam's words. It's called Hadith al-Qudsi. So Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, narrating this hadith from Allah, kullu amali bin Adam lahu, all acts that Bani Adam is doing, all actions belongs to them. Illa siyam, except fasting. فَإِنَّهُ لِي, that fasting belongs to me. وَأَنَا أَجْزِي بِهِ, and I am rewarding the fasting directly. Means not through anybody. The reason is because it is very close connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It is tremendously a private, personal worship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that's why, because of that nature, fasting basically teaches us to build a sense of faith. In other words, it trains us to build a sense of ihsan. And the meaning of ihsan, an ta'budallah ka'annaka tarahu, fa'in lam takun tarahu fa'innahu yarak, means that we are doing fasting is build an essence of that we are seeing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I'm fasting, looks like I'm seeing Allah. Allah is there all the time. And if I cannot go to that level that looks like I'm seeing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then I have to develop a belief or faith that Allah is seeing me. And that's what the belief is all about. Being watched, being seen. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows everything that we are doing. That kind of essence of faith is being rebuilt in the month of Ramadan. And that's why we hope that at the end of Ramadan, our iman decreases tremendously. If before Ramadan our iman is just like 10%, 20%, maybe in the masjid we remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, outside of the masjid we forget Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that after Ramadan our iman must increase to become 50% or 70%. So every time we feel that we are being watched by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Every time we go anywhere at any time, we feel that Allah is there with us. Looks like we are seeing Him.
Is it the Ya ayyuhallazina amanu, that means to do the fasting, somebody needs to be what's the mu'min, or he must have a
Yes, it's also the meaning. So I'm talking about the purpose of fasting, and that is based on building iman. But the meaning also that you cannot fast without iman. It is one of the requirements.
Somebody without iman, if do fasting,
course.
that is not desirable to.
Yeah, in other words, it's not only desirable, it is not required. Also, when someone is fasting and fulfill the requirement of fasting, it is the indication of iman. So in other words, that people might not eat. There are many people can be away from drink, but it's not necessarily fasting. Fasting is something different. Fasting is not only that you don't eat, you don't drink, but more importantly, you are training yourself to be away from every desire that can distract you from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that can take you away from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So food and drink basically is just a symbol of it. But the most important is that anything in terms of desire, hawa, that can take you away from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that's what you need to abstain and restrain. And that's why fasting, the essence of fasting is what they call in Arabic al-imsak. That is to hold, to restrain, to fight back. So every time that my desire wanted to bring me to somewhere that Allah doesn't like, I have to fight and I have to restrain myself. That's what fasting is all about. So the definition of fasting basically in Sharia is very simple. Our ulama used to say that fasting is al-imsaku an al-ta'am wal-sharab wal-jima' min ba'di tulu' al-fajr al-thani ila ghurub al-shams. That's what fasting is all about. So fasting is to abstain from food, drink, and marital sexual relations from dawn to sunset. That's what's fasting. But lillahi ta'ala, for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This definition gives you the three main pillars of fasting. Some ulama say two main pillars, but some others say three. Those who say two means fasting must be for lillahi ta'ala, for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So you have to have a niyat. You have to have an intention. If you don't eat, you don't drink, but your intention is not to worship Allah, it's not the fasting as well. Maybe because you want to be a little bit skinny, so you don't eat, you don't drink. So you avoid food and drink simply because you want to lose some weight. But fasting is not for that. Fasting is to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's called lillahi ta'ala. That's the intention, the sincerity in doing fasting. The second pillar of fasting is to abstain from food and drink and marital sexual relations. So these are the requirements of it. You don't eat, you don't drink, you don't have relation with husband and wife. That's what fasting is all about. But the third one, you have to do it from certain time, during the certain time, and that is from dawn to sunset. Min al-fajr thani ila ghurub al-shams. If you do it from noon to midnight, it's not fasting too. So these are the three requirements. Number one, you do it for Allah, and then you abstain from food, drink, and marital sexual relation, and then you do it between dawn and sunset. This is what the definition of fasting basically.
We'll take a short break. Dear viewers, you are watching Vision for Success. Stay with us. Dear viewers, welcome back. You are watching Vision for Success. Here with us, Imam Shamsi Ali. Yes, brother.
Yes. So the second one that I'd like to explain from this ayah, Kutiba alaykum as-siyam, it is about the fasting itself. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala first say Kutiba, it was prescribed. It is a fi'l madi, it is past tense. Every time that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions something in the future, but He used the past tense, it means it's the must. It is something clear. There is no discussion about that. For example, Allah says in the Quran, iqtarabatis sa'ah. The sa'ah, the qiyamah is so near. But Allah used past tense, and Allah informed this to Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam 15 centuries ago. And then He said it is already near, and He used past tense. Why? Because Allah wanted to underline that it is happening no matter what. It's sure, it's certain that Yawm al-Qiyamah, the doomsday, is happening. And that's why He uses past tense. So when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala uses past tense, kutiba, it had been prescribed, it means it is a must. You have to do it. There is no choice. Secondly, it is used the word kutiba, and the meaning of kutiba is to write. It had been written. Why? Because the obligation of fasting had been written in the Lawhul Mahfuz. So it is not something new for us. And that's why the Holy Quran then underlined when it says, Kama kutiba ala alladhina min qablikum, as it was prescribed to those who before you. And we can still find it that people of the past, Jews, Christians, and other people of religions used to fast as well. Even non-heavenly religion, those religions have been created by humans, such as Hindu, Buddhist, they have their own fast. You know, Hindu people, they are fasting too. Buddhist people, they have their own fast. Sometimes Buddhist people fast more than us. But then you find the Jewish people. The Jewish people used to fast as well. And Musa alayhi salatu wasalam was known that he'd fast. And Isa alayhi salatu wasalam also used to fast. And when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave Isa alayhi salatu wasalam to Maryam alayhi salatu wasalam, so she delivered the baby. And she was so scared to bring the baby to her people. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said to Maryam alayhi salatu wasalam, Inni nadartu lirrahmani sawma. You know, when the people ask you something about Isa, about Jesus, then don't talk, just be quiet. And the meaning of being silent here, Allah said, do fasting. So fasting basically had been the Sharia for all nations, even before Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And that's why we can still find that some signs in among the people. It's not something new. We can prove it. So when the Holy Quran tells us something, it's proven. But the last one is لَعَلَّكُمْ تَتَّقُونَ. Why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says لَعَلَّكُمْ تَتَّقُونَ? It means that if you fulfill the requirements of fasting, not only that you abstain from food and drink, but everything that Allah prohibited, you will gain taqwa Allah azza wa jal. So what is taqwa? It had been defined by many definitions, or different definitions by different scholars. But I think one of the best definition of taqwa is when Umar Allahu anhu asked Abu Ubadah. And he said to him, Ya Umar, Ya Abu Ubadah, mat taqwa? What is the taqwa? What is the definition of taqwa? And Abu Ubadah simply asked him a question. Had you ever walked on the way, on the street, a lot of thorn that can harm you? What did you do? What did you do? Umar Allahu anhu said, I was very careful so that the thorn will not harm me. So Abu Ubadah said to him, that is what taqwa is all about. Taqwa is being careful in life. Means try to know what is right, what is wrong, what is halal, what is haram, what is allowed, what is not allowed, what is okay, what is prohibited. That's what taqwa basically. So being careful in living your life so that you don't fall down into something that Allah doesn't like. Don't fall down into prohibitions of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because we are living our life just walking. And everywhere you can find thorn. It's very dangerous. You know, the moment you put your foot on that thorn, you're going to be killed maybe, because it's very poisonous. There's a lot of sins in there. So you have to be very careful. So taqwa basically means to be very careful in life. We have to know. So what are the requirements of taqwa? There are many. But one of the most important requirements of taqwa is, number one, you have to have knowledge. Because how are you going to be careful if you don't know which is right, which is wrong? So in terms of halal, haram, you have to know which one is halal, which one is haram. Now, for example, Muslim living in America, we have to be very careful. When you go to the restaurant, then you have to be very careful. Is it allowed or is it not allowed? And that's why Muslims who are having taqwa Allah Azza wa Jal, he or she will not be very easily entering into just any restaurant to eat. Because they know that even if we eat fish, for example, in the Italian restaurant or Chinese restaurant, sometimes there is no guarantee that that fish basically is not being mixed with something that Allah doesn't like. Maybe some, larve or oil from pork that is mixed in the vegetable that you eat. So Muslims who have taqwa Allah Azza wa Jal.
So even we should be careful about taking the fish also?
I mean, when you enter into a general restaurant, that be careful of eating just anything that you want to eat. Because particularly when you go to the non-halal Chinese restaurant, every time that they cook, they use oil that made of pork. That is a common knowledge out there. That even when they cook vegetable in the Chinese restaurant, they use this lard. You go, for example, into McDonald's. McDonald's use lard basically. It's not in the. I'm not talking about meat here. I'm talking about the roti, the bread that they use. They have lard, and that's why the bread is very soft. So all these are basically, if we have taqwa Azza wa Jal, then we have to be very careful. Why we have to go to these places to eat while we have some brothers and sisters who are organizing halal restaurant? Number one, for me, in addition to the halal and haram, it is a must for the Muslim to go to the halal restaurant for one purpose, and that purpose is to support and develop Muslim businesses. Because if there is halal restaurant, except those who are vendor on the street, do you think the non-Muslims are coming to the halal restaurant to eat? Do you think the Jewish people, our Jewish friends, are coming to the halal restaurant to eat? Of course not. Sometimes we go to the kosher restaurant to eat, but our Jewish friends are not coming to the halal restaurant. So who is going to support the business of our brothers and sisters if not the Muslims themselves? And that's why for me, when I am talking about halal and haram and all this stuff, it's not only that particular issues, halal and haram, but there's another issue of community, issue of building Islamic community. So who is going to support the business of our brothers and sisters? And it's about solidarity, Islamic solidarity. Innamal mu'minuna ikhwa, that Muslims are brothers. So if you see your brothers are opening restaurants, opening groceries or store, then you have to build that sense of solidarity. Feel that going to my brother's store is not only counting 1 cent, 50 cents more expensive than the general store, 50% more expensive, but you are building a community development. You are building economic development. You are supporting the business of your brothers. And these brothers are going to give charity to the masjid. So all these are kind of linkage in order to build our Muslim community powerful and strongly. I think we connect that into building of brotherhood or solidarity between the Muslims.
We'll take another break. We'll come shortly. Dear viewers, you are watching Vision for Success. Stay with us. We'll come back soon. Dear viewers, welcome back. You are watching Vision for Success. Here with us, Imam Shamsi Ali. We are discussing about Saum.
Yes, so the third one, لَعَلَّكُمْ تَتَّقُونَ, it has a lot of meanings that we need to discuss. But the first one, I think, is the second one, because I'm talking about faith. The second one is the importance of regaining the glory of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There is an ayah in the Holy Quran in the ayat of Saum, the verses of fasting, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَلِتُكْمِلُوا الْعِدَّةَ وَلِتُكَبِّرُوا اللَّهَ عَلَى مَا هَدَاكُمْ وَلَعَلَّكُمْ تَشْكُرُونَ. So complete the day, the number of the days, and then glorify your Lord so that you may be thankful. Now why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says glorify Allah? Because the essence of fasting is to glorify Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Imagine that you own your food, you own your drink, you are husband and wife, but you restrain from involving yourself into those. Why? Because Allah wants you to do so. It means that you are acknowledging the power of Allah. You are acknowledging the authority of Allah. That is the meaning of glory of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Nowadays, Muslims don't have that glory. Sometimes they have that glory in the masajid. That in the masajid we say Allahu Akbar. And in the month of Ramadan we say Allahu Akbar. During the Hajj we say Allahu Akbar. But outside of those times we don't say Allahu Akbar. Why? We don't have the glory of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now when I say glory of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala outside of Ramadan, means you have to have Allah's glory in every single thing that you do in your business. In addition that you are going to be very honest. You don't have to cheat the people in order to gain profit. But more importantly, you have to have a self-confidence in doing it. You know, one of the most important diseases of the Ummah, the sickness of the Ummah today, that we are losing self-confidence. When you do business, oftentimes we see, oh, others are having money, they have capital, we cannot do it. The moment you say we cannot do anything because you are being defeated by your own mentality. And that's why when you have the glory of Allah, you're going to be powerful. You're going to build a self-confidence. So as the Jewish people can build these powerful banks, they can build Wall Street, why we cannot? Why we cannot having our own bank? Why we cannot have our own Wall Street, call it Wall Street, whatever the street you want to call it. But the point is that as other people can do, why we cannot do? And the only way we can do that when you have a strong mentality, strong psychology, strong heart, strong political will, and that political will is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's glory. وَلِتُكَبِّرُ. So the month of Ramadan is teaching us to regain back that, the power of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in life, that we are living not alone. You know, even though at the moment we have a lot of problems, we are poor, we are backward, we are marginalized, but by having back Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in life, we are going to build self-trust and confidence.
We have an impression that only Ramadan teaches us to build ourselves to how to go to paradise and how to avoid Jahannam. So you are telling that it's economic. There is an economic aspect also.
Yeah, because it's teaching of Islam is a whole concept. It is not partial. So when you talk about Jannat and you talk about Nar, you relate this into your real life. When I say, for example, I wanted to enter into Jannah, how to enter into Jannah? Then I have a lot of good things to do. And that's why I have to build economic things so that I can help the poor people. I can build school, I can build masjid so that people can pray. I can help orphans, I can help widows. You know, I can spend some money so that people can go to the universities. You know, a lot of things can be done through economic empowerment. You know, so this is also Jannat. Because going to Jannah is not only prayer. Going to Jannah is not only zikr. This is just one door, and that's why the door of Jannah has quite a lot. There's many ways to enter into Jannah. So it's called Subul as-Salam, the path to as-Salam, the path to Jannah. There are many ways, through charity, through economic empowerment, some through political struggle. You know, become a city council, for example. For a Muslim, to become a city council is not only to become a city council. It is a key for you to enter into Jannah. Because through that position, you can help people around, Muslim and non-Muslims alike. So when you talk about Ramadan and related that to Jannah, it's not only about Akhirat. I think before Akhirat, we have to remember that we are here in this dunya. And that's why we have to relate it. Rasulullah ﷺ says, Ad-dunya mazra'atul akhirah. This dunya is a place for you to plant. If you want fruit, that you have to plant it here. If you want mango in Jannah, that you have to plant the mango tree here in dunya. So it means you cannot separate between the two. So when we talk about Ramadan, that Allah opened a special door called Rayyan, it means that in the month of Ramadan, there are special deeds that you can do in order to enter into this special door of Jannah. And so again, Islam is the concept of holy. The holy concept means that we cannot separate it. When you talk about Nar, we cannot just say Nar by itself and nothing to do with dunya. When you talk about Jannah, just Jannah, nothing to do with dunya. It is related. And that's why when the Muslims are separating between Akhirah and dunya, then you will see the consequences. What is the consequences? Behaviors of the Muslim. When they are in the masjid, so nice, so kind, so humble, so honest. When they are outside of the masjid, they're becoming someone else, very different. Why? Because they feel that outside of the masjid has nothing to do with Jannah. So when you enter into Jannah, just go to the masjid and pray. But the moment you leave the masjid, go to the market, become someone else. Looks like market is not the key to Jannah. You know, the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ says that among those who are in the highest Jannah in the Day of Judgment, tajirun saduq, an honest tajir, an honest business person. So if you're doing business and you're honest in your business, doing it professionally, you don't cheat, you don't manipulate, then you will be among those who are in the highest level of Jannah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Imam Adil, for example, you know, those who are in power, president, king, but they are just in their power, they will be among the highest in Jannah. So it means Allah encourages the people to do things in the dunya in order to enter into Jannah.
So I have a question about that, like halal, haram. Some people are asking why Allah made these complicated if everything is halal, there is nothing haram, that would be easier for mankind. Is
For-
there any scientific or
For the interest of human beings, number one, life is about choices. Life is about freedom. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives you freedom of choice. But at the same time, in order to prove that you are free, He gives you some alternative choices. Because if everything is okay, how you want to express your freedom? So sometimes this one is prohibited, this one is okay. Now Allah tells you, you are free to choose. Now, if there is no choices, then you are not free anymore. So it is for our interest. Secondly, anything that Allah prohibits must be harmful to us, and anything that Allah allows must be good for us. For example, pork is not allowed. Every health expert says pork is dirty animals. Okay, alcohol is not allowed. Everyone who have ration, who have mind, will say alcohol is not good for anybody. It's not only for kids, even for adults. Many accidents happen. Many people are doing raping, for example, raping a woman because of being influenced by alcohol. Many crime have been committed because of alcohol. Gambling, for example, no person is going to do gambling becoming richer and even have peace and tranquility in life. They're always suffering at the end. So anything that Allah prohibited must be harmful to us. And so it's for our own benefit. So it's a lot of things to say, but that is a test in life as well.
so there is a scientific explanation also. There is halal and haram. Not only is
Exactly. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, for example, prohibits pork, it has been scientifically proved that pork contains certain disease that is not in any other animals. It's very dangerous worms in the pork, for example. It can cause into obesity more than any other animal. Cholesterol is high in the pork than any other animal.
so gambling is the lottery is a part of gambling?
You know, the majority of the scholars say lottery is a part of gambling because when you buy it, it looks like you are doing gambling. You know, you're spending money for not sure about it. And so anything that you wanted to gain profit without effort is a part. It's kind of gambling as well.
So sometimes we do, picking for employment, for anything, we are picking somebody through lottery. That is also
yeah, that one is the way to select. It's just the way to select. It's not necessarily gambling. But gambling is like lotto that is being sold out there in the groceries. The majority of the scholars say it's a part of gambling. But when you want to, for example, to choose someone to do something, so you do something, gambling looks like gambling, how you call it, lottery. It's not gambling, it's just to choose. It's one of the ways to choose someone for doing something.
that could be done.
This can be done in that way.
Thank you very much, Imam
Thank you.
Shamsali. We will continue this discussion in the next episode also. Thanks once again for coming. দর্শক, ভুল জ্ঞান, ভুল ব্যাখ্যা, ভুল পদক্ষেপ আমাদের জীবনকে দুর্বিষহ করে তুলতে পারে। সফলতার জন্য অপরিহার্য হচ্ছে সঠিক জ্ঞান। আসুন ইসলামকে সঠিকভাবে জানি। অপরিহার্য হচ্ছে ভিশনারি হওয়া। ভিশনারি উদ্যোক্তারা বদলে দিতে পারেন সমাজ ও অর্থনীতি। ভীষণ আত্মবিশ্বাস, পরিশ্রম এবং ধারাবাহিক চেষ্টা এনে দিতে পারে সাফল্য। আসুন সফলতার জন্য সেভাবেই চেষ্টা করি, নতুন প্রজন্মকে ভিশনারি উদ্যোক্তা ও পরিশ্রমী হতে এবং ইতিবাচক ভাবতে শেখাই। অনুষ্ঠান সম্পর্কে আপনার পরামর্শ মতামত লিখুন visionforsuccessus@gmail.com। অনুষ্ঠানটি প্রচারিত হবে প্রতিদিন রাত 9টায়, পুনঃপ্রচার সকাল 11টা এবং দুপুর 2:30 ইনশাআল্লাহ আবারও দেখা হবে আগামীকাল এই সময় এখানে টাইম টিভিতে। আসসালামু আলাইকুম।